Man, I can't believe it's been a year. Seemed like all of 2020 and so far, first part of 2021, all these days just blend together, and I just can't believe we made it. We made it here. Last year has been a year of extreme sadness, extreme happiness, extreme anger, all the extremes. But today, I'm going to take you through my first year as a medically complex father. First off, I want to say welcome to my channel. If you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe down there. Follow me on Instagram. My handle is in the description. But whew, it's been a year. A few weeks ago, my daughter turned 1. It was the most amazing feeling ever because I never, ever even dreamt that we would get here to this part, to this spot, to that day with everything going on. But first, before I get into my reflections, I'm gonna take you back through what happened in the timeline with everything with my daughter. So I'm about to take you through the first year of being a dad and what we went through. But I have to start with the first half, which was spent in the NICU of a children's hospital. If you are unfamiliar with NICU, neonatal intensive care unit, which is a place where sick babies go who need extra attention, who may be there for a plethora of reasons. But hospital life, such a big part of this first year and everything that happened to us in this first year. So right away, we had no idea that our daughter would have spent almost 6 months in the hospital. Not only that, we had no idea that we were going to have to go to the hospital as soon as we did, right after she was born. So I didn't really have a traditional birth story. It was stressful all the way up until the minute that she came out, and then 6 months later, completely. But if you're unfamiliar with the story, as soon as my daughter came out, she wasn't breathing well. I cut the umbilical cord. Doctors took her to this other closet to help her breathe, to give her breathing support. And from that point, my family was separated. We didn't get the skin-to-skin bonding. I didn't get a chance to rub her head. I didn't get a chance to hold her, but we knew there was something going on. And in the moment, I wish I allowed myself to really enjoy the process, those moments, those seconds, all the way up until becoming a parent. But essentially, the things that were going through my mind was, I hope that my child is breathing. I hope that my child is okay. I'm not exactly sure what my daughter's diagnosis will be, but we know that it's something. And so with all these things going through my head, I didn't have a chance to sit back and really enjoy the moments and enjoy myself. And so the minute that my daughter was born, I cut the umbilical cord really quick, and doctors went and took her to a whole nother room to start providing breathing support for her. So they were trying to stick the breathing tubes down her nose to get her oxygen, but because of her Pfeiffer syndrome and her small nasal airways, they had a tough time doing it. And so during this entire time, I'm just pacing outside the room. My wife is getting treatment because she lost a lot of blood during delivery. And so we were all kind of in separate spaces where I was looking over our daughter and looking over what doctors were trying to do to her medically. But it was just overwhelming. The entire moment was overwhelming. I was partly filled with so much joy that finally I'm a dad. Finally I could smile. Finally I could relax, but not quite, because of everything going on that, of course, we didn't really know that it was going to happen that fast, that aggressive. I think the hardest part for me during that time was seeing her hooked up to all those tubes, all those machines, all the doctors in running tests. No one could give me an answer. No one could give me a timeline. Nothing was verified yet in terms of syndrome or condition. All we knew was that this night we were going to Children's Hospital, and I was not expecting to go to Children's Hospital that night. Fast forward through the rest of the time at Children's Hospital, we're in the NICU, more doctors are coming in. It seemed like we seen like 10 or 15 doctors a day, different people coming in, introducing themselves, explaining to me, kind of what was going on, which when you sit in enough doctor meetings, you kind of get a pretty good idea. But my one question to everybody was, when can we go home? and no one had an answer. No one could give an answer. And that right there was an indication that we were going to be there for a while. And so at that point, I wish I allowed myself to kind of take a step back and just breathe and relax. But of course, this is new. This is your child. Like I said, they're hooked up to machines. You don't know what's going on. I was in a state to where I hadn't slept. I was hungry. So I had to take care of myself. And naturally, me being me, I was like, I need to stay by my daughter's side the entire time. So that means I'm neglecting my basic needs. So instead of going home to sleep like they urged me to do, I got a room upstairs at the hospital where even there, I didn't really sleep because I had that separation anxiety, which is something I feel like as a parent, I never thought that I would ever get, but it happens. And there are times even throughout the day when my daughter is in her room and I'm in our room, I'm like, I need to go see her. I need to feel her. I need to see what she's doing. So, but as interesting as the hospital stay was, there were many, many positives that came out of it. We got really, really close with the medical staff. We got really close to our primary care our primary NICU doctor, who would go out of her way to make sure that our daughter was comfortable. She would go out of her way to check in with us because as we did decide to go home and we were commuting back and forth, we wanted to know what was going on, of course, because our daughter's there by herself. And my wife and I were going up there, spending large amounts of time there at the hospital. But of course, we had to go home and take care of ourselves. And she kept that line of communication open, which helped ease kind of that transition of our daughter being in the hospital, us being home. But the part that become, really anxious and still scary is, like I said, with doctors coming in, doing all these tests, x-rays, MRIs, CTs, all these different scans, all these different procedures just to help my daughter. And we had to learn how to be very, very patient. And I think that that's something that I excelled at before, but even more so now as I'm going through my fatherhood journey of patience and knowing that when you are a medically complex parent or a parent of a special needs child, that you have to be totally flexible. And at that point, it's all about the kid and what the kid needs to make sure that that kid is getting everything that they need. I'm just so glad we were able to see her crush so many milestones. I mean, literally 2 days old. And one of the doctors, I believe it was orthopedics, was doing kind of like a strength test with her, how he was trying to see something with mobility. And right away, when she grabbed his hand, he was like, oh, she's strong. How old is she? Like a few weeks old? And we're like, no, she's 2 days old. Crazy. But also too, other things like starting to breathe without the ventilator. That was huge. She went from having a few minutes off the ventilator to now all day, which is amazing. It's the biggest blessing ever. She started talking. Now, those who don't know, when you have a tracheostomy tube, essentially it's bypassing your vocal cords down your trach into the area where all the air comes up and just repeats the cycle. That's really how sound is translated. And so with her having a trach there, it becomes very, very difficult to push air up and out the mouth so you can talk. And she was making noise, although her vocal cords did swell up and, she's been kind of unable to do it lately. She was doing it. So we heard her talk, we heard her power through. And it's these things where doctors are literally looking at us like, all the stuff that we know on Pfeiffer syndrome, she is rewriting the book. She's completely rewriting the book. And, that is a testament to that little girl's will, that little girl's strength and her personality. I mean, she's our daughter. Me and her mom are pretty resilient. We're pretty strong. I feel like we go through a lot and we're able to bounce back. And I feel like she has that innately inside of her to where any small little thing that comes up, she just hurdles right over it. And now my baby is up walking with a little walker that we put her in, that she's scooting around. Again, crazy things, because a lot of the Pfeiffer kids have seen delays in terms of speaking, talking, eating food by mouth. That is the next kind of milestone for her. But again, just so proud throughout this entire journey. And literally, I'm gonna throw this out there. I literally think give her 6 more months. And I think that she's gonna be walking without it. Just the progression of everything, God willing, that she's gonna keep fighting through and that she's gonna keep getting after it. Now that we're home, and now that I am, fulfilling some of the traditional fatherhood duties that I didn't get the opportunity to do while in the hospital, I think it just has worked wonders for our relationship. Whether that is me changing her diaper, and now she kind of knows she does these things, and she does these kind of like nonverbal communication things to be like, hey, I need to be changed. And so she just makes it easy as possible, and she's just smiling. When I swaddle her, or when my wife swaddles her, like, she just looks at us with so much comfort. And these are things that, like, in little moments that may not seem big, but I definitely do not take them for granted. We each also have our own ways when we put her to bed. We each have our own things that we do to, like, transmit that love to her, give her that comfort and security, so she can fall asleep and know that when she wakes up, we're going to be right there. Because of course, for the first 6 months of her life, she would fall asleep and wake up, and she would look around and just see her hospital room, and she would see the nursing staff and all this, stuff going off. And so we just want to make sure that she feels that security and love. But really, as she turns 1, I just look back and have to celebrate. Like, yeah, we got here and we didn't think we would get here, but every little small thing that we had to do along the journey makes this situation feel so fulfilling and amazing. And one thing, I have to do better at is making sure that those little things that I do celebrate, that I can take that step back and be like, wow, we went through like 20 hours of training to be caregivers. We commuted every single day. We spent 8, sometimes 12 hours a day at the hospital with her, just not only trying to, like, learn about how to care for her, but just being in her company, because it feels so lonely when your family's not together. And those moments that us 3 were all together as a family, it was just amazing, but it was temporary at the time. And now that we're home, we're making sure that we literally do not take any of this for granted. We're making sure that we keep her as the priority, keep her development as the priority, and keep showing her, because of all her limitations, that the littlest things that she does is a big deal, because those are just one step closer to reaching that next level and that next milestone. And as we are striving to reach those next milestones, the biggest lesson I learned through this journey was the fact that it is okay to be vulnerable. I just felt like I didn't have anyone to talk to that resonated. I felt like no one had the answers. I felt like this was my fault because I have a rare condition. And I was just assuming that because her genetic syndrome is rare, that it was something that I passed along, that I put this on my daughter. And so I had to really find my strength and vulnerability and talking to people and reaching out. And it was the best thing for me, because I was able to build this community of dads who are supportive, of dads who are knowledgeable because they either have kids with trachs or they have other medically complex kids, and they were able to allow me to see through their eyes, fast forwarding 4 or 5 years in what life can be like. It was just, I think, something that was needed, and something that as I progress in my fatherhood journey, that I want to continue to share, continue to help dads talk to people. Because if I didn't decide to post the story on Instagram and get the support that I did, I don't know where I would be today. And I don't know if I could be the dad that my daughter needs me to be. So another important thing to do is live in the moment. Living in the moment was so important for us in our journey, just with everything going on. Like, we were able to take a step back and really celebrate what she was doing, really celebrate the fact that she was talking when that trach was in. Celebrate the fact that she's strong. Celebrating the fact that she was rolling. Celebrating the fact that she was making good eye contact and tracking and changing hands with toys and everything. And so this was a huge part of development, and we were witnessing it. And of course, at the time, didn't think it was that big of a deal. But now, in the process of looking back, it was everything. And I'm just so amazingly happy and blessed to be a part of even being able to watch her to do that. Because again, some of the stuff she could have done when we weren't at the hospital. She could have just done it. But it seems like we were there for almost every major milestone and every major thing that happened to her, whether in the hospital or at home. And that's something that I don't take lightly, and I really, really enjoyed. 1 year. Can't wait. There's gonna be many more stories. Her personality is getting there. She's so much like me, and it's crazy. I see it every single day. I see it in the littlest things with her side-eye looks. And so appreciate you tuning in. Again, make sure you subscribe. I have more fatherhood tips and more of my fatherhood journey coming, and showing you guys a little bit of what it's like to live like us. Have a good one.